What's up, Beastcoast Pokemon? Luke here from Celio's network, and today I'm going to share with you 5 cards that can enhance your Pokemon TCG decks, from top meta decks to interesting homebrews. I think these 5 cards that I've selected can help out many decks, if not all kinds of decks that you are building.
Hey guys, Cyber. Relax! I was just gonna get there. Anyway, as this little buddy was saying, 80% of you aren't subscribed to the channel, so hit that subscribe button. It really helps. Hey, what Pokemon are you?
We're going to start out with probably the most generalized and most simple one on this list. It's going to be an item card, Escape Rope. Escape Rope has been in the game many times. It used to even be called Warp Point. It's been around forever. The effect of Escape Rope is each player switches their active Pokemon with one of their benched Pokemon. Your opponent switches first, so you both choose which ones you switch, but you both have to switch as long as you have benched Pokemon. This can force your opponent into really tricky situations where they did not expect their active Pokemon and their benched Pokemon to switch, and it also acts as a switching card for you if you wanted to switch that turn. I have used this countless times to force my opponents into misplays, or just force them into sending up a Pokemon that they don't want to send up, but they are essentially forced to with this card, and it's only an item. Sometimes this Escape Rope can be just as good as a boss's orders, and at the very least it gives you a switching out and makes your opponent have to make a decision on your turn that they weren't prepared to make. Next is another item card, but this one is a tool that you'll attach to your Pokemon. It's Big Parasol. Big Parasol reads, as long as the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot, prevent all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to all of your Pokemon. Existing effects are not removed and damage is not in effect. This stops things like placing damage counters, affecting you with special conditions, or attacks that simply say knock out the defending Pokemon, like Giratina V-Star's Star Requiem V-Star attack does. This is also really good against the new Lost Zone Sableye that can place 12 damage counters around your board. Big Parasol, as long as it's on your active Pokemon, protects all of your benched Pokemon as well from attacks like that Sableye's Lost Mine. I think this is really strong, especially right now, because of these new Lost Zone cards like Giratina V-Star and Sableye not wanting to see a Big Parasol on the other side of the board. Next is an energy card, Capture Energy. This is one of my favorite cards from all of the Sword and Shield expansions. It doesn't do anything broken, but what it does do is give you 2 uses and 2 effects essentially in one card. It is an energy attachment for turn, but it also says when you attach this card from your hand to a Pokemon, search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put it onto your bench. The most important thing is getting your board set up very early. Playing Capture Energies can help you attach energy, which gets your Pokemon closer to attacking, and search your deck for any basic Pokemon that you need on your bench this turn and get it there. Whether it's a support Pokemon like Radiant Greninja, or it's a Pokemon that you need to evolve next turn like Arceus V. This can be included in so many decks. It's even included in decks where the main Pokemon don't have colorless attack costs in them, like Palkia V-Star. Palkia V-Star, some of these decks play 1, 2, and 3 Capture Energies, even though the Palkia V-Star itself needs only water energy. That's how good Capture Energy is. Our 4th card is the first Pokemon on this list, Luminion V, from the Brilliant Stars expansion. Luminion V has the ability Luminous Sign. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Luminion V is a liability on the bench since it has low HP for a V Pokemon at 170 hit points, and it does give your opponent 2 prizes when knocked out. but Luminion V is super useful. Whether you're playing a Lost Zone deck and on turn 1 you want to search for Colress's Experiment to start turboing cards into your Lost Zone, or you have this in a more tactical deck and you want to search for your late game Roxanne to disrupt your opponent, or even just for something as simple as searching for the boss's orders that will win you the game. Supporter cards are so powerful that they can only be played once per turn, and Luminion V fetches any specific supporter from your deck. And lastly, this one, I'm cheating a little bit because it's going to be Radiant Pokemon. So it's not just one single card. It's going to be Radiant Pokemon. So the Radiant Pokemon rule is that you can't have more than one Radiant Pokemon in your deck. Whenever the Pokemon TCG gives us a card like this, in the past there were Ace specs where you could only play one Ace spec in your deck. A lot of players would consider it wasted space if you just didn't include one of these ultra powerful cards. I feel similar to the Radiant cards, and there are 4 in particular that I think can find themselves a spot in many decks. The most useful and most general Radiant Pokemon is Radiant Greninja with the Concealed Cards ability. You must discard an energy card and then you get to draw 2 cards, because it also helps you get energy into the discard for things like Melanie and Palkia V-Star. You're essentially getting 2 positives where you discard cards because you want them in your discard and you're drawing more cards with Radiant Greninja. So Radiant Greninja is going to be the most generalized one. It doesn't need a specific type. It can discard any energy to draw cards. I think the next best one that you can fit into decks is Radiant Charizard. It has the Excited Heart ability that says its attacks cost 1 colorless less for each prize card your opponent has taken. Essentially, any deck can toss a Radiant Charizard and a Fire Energy into it, and once the opponent has taken 4 prizes, you can use Combustion Blast for 250 damage for just the cost of a single Fire Energy. So this Radiant Charizard is what we call very splashable into decks, although it needs that specific Fire Energy requirement. The next one is going to be Radiant Gardevoir with the ability Loving Veil. All of your Pokemon take 20 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon V. Pokemon V are incredibly popular and incredibly powerful, so taking 20 less damage can be the difference between your Pokemon surviving or your Pokemon being knocked out, especially when paired with things like Big Charm and other healing cards or other things that boost your HP. So Radiant Gardevoir can help in a lot of different decks against a lot of different decks. And then lastly, I think the 4th best card and the other very generalized Radiant Pokemon card here that we have is the Viridian Halucha with Big Match. As long as this Pokemon's on your bench, your Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon V Max. This is less general, and that's why it's the one I'm suggesting last out of the Radiant cards, because it only helps against V Max Pokemon. There are a fair amount in the game. We have Mew V Max, Kyurem V Max, Ice Rider V Max that are all pretty popular still, and you could do 30 more damage to those. So if in any of those matchups you're ever missing knockouts on those Pokemon by 30, 20, or 10 damage, then maybe Radiant Halucha belongs in your deck. Well, I hope this video has gotten you excited about deck building in the Pokemon TCG, and maybe you'll even use some of these cards that I suggested today in your next deck. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Beastcoast Pokemon, and we'll see you next time.